Now, today I want to talk about a particular topic of effectiveness and memory because there's a lot of people out there that are using memory techniques and they're using them well. However, they are getting inconsistencies. So you're forgetting things as well, or you're trying to remember. You're doing the techniques really well, but there's still forgetfulness in there. So this happens in memory competitions quite a lot, but also in everyday life as well. Like if you're trying to remember people's names or remember speeches or tasks, things like that. You might get to 90%, but the rest of the 10%, it's like, where was it? Tip of my tongue. So I'm going to go through some certain principles, talk about what's going on and what you can do, because if you can focus on these things, you will get better at remembering things. And I just had a coaching session talking about it as well. So what we went through together was, okay, how can we speed up the process? So speed up your memory. And I've done videos on speed before as well. But this time I want to look at the effectiveness of it. So we'll break it down. So let's go. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and share it amongst your friends, colleagues, people that are interested, because the more people see this and learn, the better. So, and you'll be helping me out as well. So thanks for that. Now, when we try and remember something, we're building a story. The problem with building a story is that if you introduced a lot of elements, yes, it's good to have a nice story, a big story, one that's using a lot of emotion, color. And I've gone through a lot of memory principles on this channel, including smash and scope, right? So a lot of you that watch that video know that in order to have an amazing recall and memory, you need to include things like your senses and, huge visual images, your imagination, color, all that stuff. But if you're trying to remember a lot of things, then a lot of these elements add up and you get what's called cognitive overload. So your brain's just trying to do too many things at once, right? So the best way to handle this, and obviously this works to help your speed as well, is to reduce that overload. So the problem now becomes, well, if you have a short association, a small connection, you're going to forget. Right? Which is generally the case with people when they get into memory. You have to start slow and you have to learn to build the connection up to make it stronger, right? Now, this is like going the opposite way, because what I'm telling you now is to shorten it, right? Now, here's the trick really is you're not so much shortening it and making a crap connection, right? What you're trying to do is shorten the association, but make the visual a lot stronger, right? That's the key thing. Make the visual. I'll give you an example. So if I'm trying to remember, say, my keys, right? Now, if I say my keys and I'm going to remember it on a location, let's say it's on my desk here. So I threw the keys on my desk and the desk broke, made a massive sound, almost the earth shook, all of that, right? So there's quite a few elements there. I made it memorable. I introduced movement. I introduced sound. I got sound in my head. I was engaged. The brain was engaged, right? But if you've got that many components multiplied by 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 things, right, that you have to remember, that's a lot of not just emotions, but data going on in your brain. So need to be able to break that up so that it's essentially very minimal. So instead of focusing on, let's say this had like 3 to 4 things in the story multiplied by, say, 20, that's like 3, 4 times 20, right? Up to 80 things that you're processing in the brain. Instead of doing that, let's say there's only like 2 things, right? Put the keys on the table, right? 2 things. Now, 2 times 20 is 40. So we've just halved it, right? Essentially. And if you do it really quickly and see it as one image, that's just 1 now, right? So it's a lot more powerful. Now, the trick is obviously, how do you see those keys hitting the table, right? This is where the power of your imagination lies, because you're not trying to build a massive story. You're trying to build a massive image, right? So my keys hitting the table. Now, how can I do this? I'll give you an example of how I would do it, right? I would picture my keys really large, right? Not this standard size, because what I'm really doing is if I'm trying to visualize and imagine, right? I can imagine anything. I don't have to imagine what that thing is looking like now, right? So I'm imagining big keys smacked on my table. That's it, right? And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do that visual all in one. All in one. For those people that are out there that are memorizing playing cards, this is great because now you can make those connections really quick and speed up your process of remembering cards. Same thing with random words, same thing with images, and so on, right? If you're trying to learn a language, right? If you've got lyrics to remember, if you've got a whole bunch of words, if you're using it more to a practical sense, what happens is that stories have so many other bits of data now, right? And then it gets a bit too much. If you learn to connect things in one go, it's going to be so much easier on your brain as well. And I'll get into further detail for those videos as well, because I just want to go through the bare concept today. And then next lot of videos show you how that works. Because I think if you understand the basic process of visual connection rather than story-based connection, then you can use that skill for everything else. And we'll look at that in terms of languages, lyrics, whatever you guys put out in the comments. And please do comment down below, because I do read them and I do take notes, and I'll put them in a list where I can sort of work on that for you and make videos about it. So please comment down below. So yeah, keys going onto my table, bang, right? And it's really big. My table, again, it's already a big table, so I don't have to really make something different of it, right? You can make something different of it if you wanted to. The location, again, I've got a front door on one of my locations, right? Now, what I can also do is, instead of just visualizing the front door, I can visualize a door just opening and closing, and that could be my location. I think I've talked about this in one of my other videos as well, is making your locations memorable. So if you have the door opening and shutting all the time, and then whatever comes onto it gets attached to it, and something happens, right, automatically, and you see that in one go, again, that's making use of what you've currently got. You don't have to be super, super creative, get two images together and then think, okay, what's the story now? Right? That's how people generally start off. But the more you practice, the more you understand that I need to be efficient with my memorization. I need to connect things in a way that isn't taking too much of my time, right? So if you reduce it, just one single connection, but focus on the visual, fantastic. Now, some people out there message me and say, Tansel, what if I can't visualize, right? It's very rare, right, that people can't visualize, but there are people out there. So what you can do is you can use emotion, right? And emotions are generally more powerful than visualizations anyway, right? So if I threw the keys on the table, maybe you get scared. So there's fear element. So try and see fear in that, right? So have a play around with that. Get some random words. Jump on my website, Memory Training Academy, and look at the random words and just play around, because the more you play around, the more you understand how the process works. And then when my other videos come up, you can practice the implementation of them as well. So do that. If you've got any questions, comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.